Welcome for the free open review lesson. The purpose of this lesson is to review all the subjects that we covered in the level 3 group class for beginners. And that means I'm going to show you, this is the book that we use. This is the book that I recommend you to study from. Manual de limba română ca limbă străină, course Romanian as a foreign language course book, A1, A2. You can find it online if you want to buy it. And with each level, we are covering one unit of this course book. So when we started level 3, we started around page 44. That's the end of unit 2. So we did talking about professions and jobs, how to say what you do, what you're busy with. And then we went on to unit 3, that was about the home, describing the environment where you live, describing basic objects in the house, and a very important topic, how to put things in plural. Yeah, which is quite complex. In Romanian, maybe you know that while in English you just add an S or an ES at the end, in Romanian you can add lots of things at the end, and there are certain rules for that. So there is like an entire table of rules for plurals, which, by the way, I don't recommend that you memorize because you will go crazy. The best way is to practice. So we did the plurals. And we focused a lot on how to ask how many, how much, where is everything, and just describe things in space and talk about the house. So this is pretty much everything that we're going to do today. I will try not to go into too much detail because I don't want to keep you here for too long. But the purpose of this is, first of all, for those of you who were in the group class to feel ready for the evaluation and to refresh your knowledge. And for those of you who are curious about the style of teaching, you know, to be able to take part in a lesson. Though this lesson is a bit different from the normal lessons because it will be mostly me asking you questions and then making lists of subjects. I won't divide you into small like that, so it will be less interactive than a normal lesson. So you should know that in a normal lesson we are much more interactive and we work in groups a lot. Okay, and now I'm going to share my screen with you. And let's see. We can use the Zoom Canva or whiteboard. Yes, here it is. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. And our first topic is jobs or professions. Who knows how to say profession in Romanian? It's very similar to English.
Ocupație?
Yeah, you could say ocupație.
O profesie?
Două ocupații.
Yeah, o profesie, două profesii. You could just say un job. Yeah, so we took the English word, un job, două joburi. There are more words for this, but it's not important that you know all of them right now. Okay, so then how would you ask someone, what is your profession?
Cine tu ești? Nu.
That's who are you? Unless they strongly identify with what they do, you would need a different question.
Care e profesia ta?
Care e profesia ta? Right, makes sense? All right.
Ce lucrați?
Ce lucrați? I like it, Michela, that you're being very polite. You're asking ce lucrați. That is for voi, either plural or dumneavoastră. Yeah, you polite. So remember, when you use the dumneavoastră, which is the polite form, we always use the plural form of the verb.
Could we say ce ocupație faceți? Or is not correct?
You would use the verb to have. So instead of to make, you'd say to have. Ce ocupație, how do you say?
Was, aveți?
Exactly. Aveți. Ce ocupație aveți? And how do you say to work?
Unde lucrează?
Yeah, so the verb itself to work is a lucra. Yeah, to work. And what you said, lucrează, that would be the third person. So el or ea, he or she works. Lucrează.
Lucrează.
He or she works. So how would you ask someone, where do you work?
Unde lucrează?
Unde? It's not he or she, it's you this time. So the verb is a bit different.
Lucrez.
Exactly. So if I say I work, it's eu.
Eu
Michele,
lucrez.
if you know, you can also help us.
Eu
Lucrez.
lucrez, lucrează, lucrez.
Lucrez.
Yes,
Lucrez.
lucrez. Bine. So, who wants to answer this question? Care e profesia ta? What would you reply? Alena, de exemplu. Care e?
Eu sunt F&B supervisor la Barca. Și acum, după pandemie, eu stai acasă, corect?
Da.
Asta e.
So, supervisor, where?
F&B supervisor la Barca sau la, cum se zic, la...
On the boat?
On the boat, correct. La, like, Royal Caribbean.
Oh, okay. And I didn't understand the word that came before supervisor.
F&B supervisor stands for food and beverage supervisor.
Ah, okay.
Nu știu cum e corect la limba română.
So maybe supraveghetor? Something like that. Because the supervisors are supraveghea. So maybe it's supraveghetor.
Dar aveți în limba română cuvinte supervisor? Aveți?
Yes, supervisor is supraveghetor. And we might want to put it in feminine for you, so it will be supraveghetoare. Supraveghetoare. Okay. How would you tell me you are a teacher?
Voi sunteți
Profesoară.
profesoara, așa.
Yes, and if I were a guy, how would you say it?
Profesor.
Yes. So notice how the names for jobs change in Romanian based on the gender. Okay, so now let's take a few examples of jobs. For example, how would you say engineer?
Engineer.
Right, un inginer. And the feminine? Oh.
Ingineră.
Ingineră. So what happened here? I added a. How about a policeman?
O polițist.
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 Polițista.
Yes, exactly. Polițistă. O polițistă. How about a journalist? Very similar to English.
Jurnalistă.
Un jurnalist. O Jurnalista. How about a politician?
Un politician. Sorry.
I'm listening.
O politiciana.
O politiciano. What else? A taxi driver. That's an important word. Taxi driver.
Un taximetrist.
And all.
Taximetrista.
Yeah. Yes. So these are pretty simple. All you need to do is put a at the end and it turns feminine. But not all of them follow the same pattern. And this is what makes Romanian more complex. Usually when words change, you have different combinations and different possibilities for them to change. So there are also those that receive itza at the end for feminines. So for example, how do you say a doctor?
Doctorița.
Yes, doctor and o doctorița. Or a waiter.
Un celner.
Un kellner.
Kellner.
So
O kellnerița.
yes, and the accent is on the first syllable. Un kellner. And o kellnerița. And sometimes the whole word changes a little bit. So for an actor, how do you say actor?
Un actor.
But how do you say actress? So even in English, it's different. Yeva, you seem very amused. Tell us what's on your mind.
No, I'm just, I don't know, so I'm trying to guess. So, o actrița, but
Yes, bingo.
Actrița.
Very well. Okay.
not always this lucky with guessing.
How about a mailman? Let's say this while the analog mail still exists, because it might become obsolete soon. Un poștaș. Și o
Așa.
so it receives the same ending as the ones above.
O poștăți.
Yes, poștășiță. It's a mouthful. O poștășiță.
She's a postman, right?
Yes, because poștă means post, and poștaș, postman, poștășiță, postwoman. And some of them receive oare in feminine. So I will give you an example. Un director, o directoare. It's the same as in English, a director. Or, for example, how do you say a shop assistant or a salesman?
Vânzător.
Venditor.
Vânzător.
Vânzător.
Vânzător. Și o?
Vânzătoare.
Vânzătoare.
Vânzătoare. Nice diphthong, Michele. So indeed it has its oa. You pronounce all the vowels. Vânzătoare.
Wow.
And a teacher, we have a different word for a specialized teacher that's from a certain age up for a specific subject, and another word for a teacher for small kids who teaches everything. So one of them is professor, that is if you're specialized in the topic that you're teaching, and the other one is if you can teach everything, because it's like the first years of school.
Învățător.
Yes, un Învățător. Can you guess what verb this is related to?
Învăța, to learn.
Exactly. So, a învăța means to learn, and învățător, teacher. Okay. O?
Învățătoare.
Învățătoare.
Mhm.
I had to learn that 10,000 times because it's so way away from my world.
Okay, so what all these three have in common is that they end in or. But you see, it's not completely reliable because actor also ends in or, but you won't say actuare. Yeah. This is why you can't really rely on these rules. It's hard to guess. Good. I'm going to save this and see if I can start a new page for you. Where is the new page? Oh, here it is. Okay, so this was a very short review of the topic of jobs, and we're going to move further and talk about living environments. Do you remember how to say to live somewhere?
A sta
That's
or
to stay.
locuiești, a locui.
A locui. That's to live somewhere. See, in English, you say to live, and it means both to live in a certain place, city, country, and to be alive and breathing. But in Romanian, it's two completely different verbs. You have a trăi, which means to be alive, and a locui, which means to live in a certain place. And this is what we're talking about right now. So how would you ask someone, where do you live?
O,
Unde locuiești?
Locuiești. Unde locuiești? And what would they reply? For example, they want to say, I live in Romania.
eu sunt din România.
Yes, but that means I am from Romania. They could be living anywhere.
Mm.
Maybe they live in Australia and they're from Romania. So how do you put this verb in the first person? I live.
Locuiești.
Locuiești.
Eu locuiesc. Eu locuiesc în România. Bun. How would you ask someone, in what city does she live? In what city?
Care oraș ea locuiește?
Yeah, but because it's a question, you change the order of the last two words.
Care orașul locuiește ea?
Right? And now in the beginning, I need to say in which city.
În care oraș locuiești?
Yes. În care or ce oraș locuiește ea? Ea locuiește în... Okay. How would you say she doesn't live in a city, she lives in a village?
Nu locuiește în oraș, locuiește la țară.
Good one. See the difference between în țară, which means in the country, and la țară, which means in the countryside. The only difference is the small word we put before. So, în țară, in the country, and la țară, in the countryside. So, how would you say she doesn't live in a city?
În țară.
Țară is country.
În oraș.
Yes, but there is one word missing. So not city, but a city.
Nu locuiește într-un oraș.
Right. So
In un
Exactly.
is the idea.
So because we have un oraș, if we have în and un together, they turn into într-un. Yeah, so whenever you have în followed by un, they turn into într-un. Nu locuiește într-un oraș, but what was that word for but?
Dar.
But not in this case. Why? Because the first sentence is negative and the second sentence is positive, and the second sentence is a correction of the first.
Mhm.
Chi, then you have to use chi.
Chi. In a village. Help me here. How do you say in a village?
La țară.
Yes, but that's in the countryside. It could be cătun or comună. Comuna is bigger than a village and cătun is smaller than a village. There are more possible places.
Para de oraș.
So what's the word for a village?
Sat.
No.
Sat,
Yes.
Sat.
So, Michele, can you tell me in a village?
nu locuiește într-un oraș, ci în sat.
In a village.
In un sat, într-un sat.
Bingo! Thank you, thank you.
Sorry, Claudia.
It's okay.
Can I ask something? Why do we use chi and not dar?
Yes, so it's because of the structure of the whole phrase. You use chi when the first sentence is negative and the second sentence is positive and it represents a correction of what was previously said. So it's like saying it's not like this, but like that. In this specific situation, you use chi. In other situations, you use dar.
Yeah, Claudia, is it right that the same structure occurs if you use bada? You need a negative. You need a negative sentence before to use bada.
Yes, but bada is said by a different person.
Yes, but it's about the structure. If I want to use bada to answer, you have to ask a negative question.
So, for example, in this case, we said nu locuiește într-un oraș, ci într-un sat. She doesn't live in a village, in a city, but in a village. But if we use bada, then I will say nu locuiește într-un sat, and you reply bada.
Bada.
Yes, she does actually.
And she does, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does.
It's like doch, I think, in German.
Yeah.
In Dutch,
Correct.
it's jawel. In French, it's si. Yeah.
Mais oui.
No, si, not we.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Because yes, we is yes in French, but if you say si in French, is a kind of we that contradicts what the person said.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense? I don't know if you have this thing in your own languages, like maybe in Russian or in Greek. Okay,
I
good.
speak German, so I got it from doch.
Okay, great. It's a bit hard to explain because not all languages have this. English doesn't have it. But there are languages that have equivalents both for bada and for chi, and that's great if you know any of those languages. Yeva, how is it for you?
We have something similar, but like I understood it from your German and your French example as well. So
Okay,
I'm
wonderful.
good.
Can you write it down so I can write it too?
Bada, it's like doch, si in French, or jawel in Dutch. And I don't know how it is in other languages. Bine.
And I have another question. You said in and plus un makes intr-un.
Mhm.
And what if we used a feminine like o, in plus o? What does that become?
What do you think, Joanna?
Intro.
Yes. See, you're teaching yourself. Wonderful.
So let's make sure.
I love it when languages are logical. They're not always like that. Bine. How would you ask someone, do you have a house or an apartment?
Aveți casa
O casă.
și aveți o casă și și un apartament.
She would be nice, but we are asking or. We are assuming they only have one or the other.
Sau aveți o casă sau
Yeah.
un apartament.
Aveți o casă, un apartament. Again, you're being very polite, Michele. That's nice. If you want to be less formal, what would you change in the sentence?
Ai.
I. Yeah. So aveți is for plural or being polite, and I is just casual. Vrei o casă la mare sau la munte? What did I ask?
Do you want a house by the sea or at the mountains?
Alena, tu vrei o casă la mare sau la munte?
Toate.
Și la mare și la munte.
Corect. Și la mare și la munte.
Ok, succes.
How do you say both?
Both, exactly.
Amândouă.
Amândouă.
Amândouă, both. That's both in feminine. Yeah, otherwise
Amândoi.
it's amândoi. Yes.
Amândoi.
But how would you say neither? Neither this nor that. Neither on the side.
Nici la mare, nici la munte. Nici.
Nici la mare, nici la munte.
Munti.
Și unde? Lângă un lac.
Un lac, nici la mare, nici la mare.
What is this? Lângă un lac.
Near the Snagov.
Right.
Next to.
Next to like a lake.
Yes, yes. So un lac is a lake. So neither at the seaside nor in the mountains, but near a lake. Okay, so these were some words about the environment where you can have a house. Now let's think about the actual house. By the way, how do you say house?
Casă.
O casă. And two houses?
Două case.
Două case.
Or o clădire. Două clădiri.
Yes, you could say o clădire. Două clădiri. That means a building.
Clădire in this, what means clădire in specific term?
Building.
It's a building. It's not a house by like house, casa de la cineva.
A house is a building, but not any building is a house. A building can be of any kind. Yeah, so building is a more general term.
So clădire este a building.
Yeah, yeah. It can be any kind.
You wouldn't call a shopping center a casa. You would call it a clădire.
Clădire, correct.
Hopefully nobody has to live there, so no. Though, who knows, it might be some people's dream to live there, if you're a shopaholic. Okay, What can you notice around the house? In front of the house, for example, what is there? Michele and Eva, I'm counting on you to remember some vocabulary from Unit 3.
O grădină.
Da, o grădină.
Grădină.
And Michele.
O curte.
O curte. What's the difference between o grădină and a curte?
The grădină has some natural stuff on. The curte is paved.
Yes, so curte is a yard. O curte două.
What about teren? Teren este curte.
Not necessarily. Un teren, două terenuri. That's a field. A field or a terrain. So it's usually used for areas that aren't arranged in any way. So if it's just terrain, then people didn't really intervene on it. They didn't create anything there. It's empty. So if you have a terrain, you can turn it into whatever you want. You can build on it, you can make a yard, you can make a garden, and so on.
Do you use this word if it's like an announcement for selling
Yes.
land?
So, da, eu vreau o casă cu minimum 100 de metri pătrați de teren. Da. I want a house with minimum 100 square meters of terrain around it. Yeah, because I want to have a small garden and a small yard and yeah. Bun. And how would you say a fence? What's the word for fence?
I can't remember.
You can think of someone who guards something. If you defend something, if you guard something. No, in English. It's like the English verb to guard. Yeah, it's un gard. Literally. Un gard, două garduri. That's a fence. Yeah, so imagine someone standing there guarding something, and that's a fence. And then you remember the word guard. And the word for road?
Drum.
Un drum. Yeah, un drum, două drumuri. That's a road. This is normally for roads that are outside of the city. If it's inside of the city, you can call it maybe a street. What's the word for street?
Strada.
Yeah, strada. And a tricky one, what is the plural to street?
Strade.
Stradele.
Străzi.
Strazi.
There are many instances in Romanian where D turns to Z. Sometimes when you conjugate a verb or when you put a word in plural, you will notice that the changed form has a Z instead of a D. So that's something that you can expect to happen quite often. O stradă, două străzi. Okay, now if we go inside the house, what can we find inside the house?
Camera.
What are the, let's say, what are the rooms? Yeah. So, o cameră, două camere, yeah, that's a room.
Bucătărie.
Yeah, o bucătărie, două bucătării. Yeah.
O camera de zi.
Două camere de zi.
Un dormitor și două dormitorii.
Dormitor. If you put ri, it sounds masculine.
Dormitoare.
Bravo.
Bucătărie, cameră de zi, dormitor. What is another essential?
O mansarda, două
Baie.
That's not
mansarde.
essential, Michele, but okay.
Sorry.
Okay. O mansardă, două mansarde.
O spalatorie.
O baie. Actually, I wanted to write baie, but I got derailed. O
Două
baie.
bai.
Yes, baie. Did you know that in Romanian slang, like out in the streets, guys might call each other boy? That's pretty nasty and rude, but it's not insulting. It's just boy.
Bai.
Yeah, you might hear this. But
Sounds
people
like
who
boy.
use this, they're not. Yeah. Sorry?
Sounds like boy.
Yes, well, boy means oxen, like male cows. Oh, by the boy. And mansarda, that's like a livable attic. I'm sorry, I don't have a better term for this. It's an attic, but you can live there. It has actual roof.
Then we have o pivnica, două pivnice for the
Yeah.
cellar.
Oh, pizza. Elena, I'm curious, how do you say beer in Russian?
Beer.
Yeah.
Piva.
There you go. See, nothing is a coincidence on this planet. This is actually the word that the pivnica originates from. I'm pretty sure we took it from Czech, because in Czech you also say pivo for beer, and pivnica was the place where they kept beer. It was that room that was under the house. And the term came into Romanian, but Romanians didn't have this habit of making so much beer like the Czech people, so it just got a general meaning of that room that is submerged, or I mean not submerged, under the earth, or partially underground.
Yeah.
O pivniță, două pivnițe. What's the English word for this?
Cellar.
Thank you, Michele. Okay. And you were also saying, oh, spălătorie. Do you know what verb this comes from, o spălătorie?
A spălat, da.
A spălat.
Yeah. A spăla, which means?
To wash.
To wash.
Wash.
Yeah.
Mașina de spălat.
Mașină de spălat vase.
Yeah, exactly. Mașină de spălat, that's for clothes, and mașină de spălat vase, that's a dishwasher.
Dishwasher machine.
Say that
what
again,
about-
dishwasher. Say the dishwasher again.
Mașină de spălat vase.
Vase.
Elena?
Clădire.
Yes. What about it?
It's clădire, like you can have a clădire, like storage room.
No, that's, remember we talked about it a few minutes earlier. It means building. Yeah, remember?
What about the storage room? How you can say it?
My grandma used to call it spice. But I'm from Transylvania, so I don't think this is a word that you use in all the regions.
Da, da,
I'm
da.
not sure how they say it in different regions. So spice, that I'm pretty sure comes from the German spice, like this.
Correct. It's an old word, very old.
Like a pantry or not really? Or a pantry you have a different name for?
It's a place where you store food usually.
And it's like a small door inside the kitchen.
It can be, yeah, it can be inside the kitchen, especially.
Yes, it's the old word is used for on the side of the kitchen, there was a room which never was heated and had mostly no window. And there you put the food in, and the old German word for food is Speis. Nowadays it's called Speisen.
Interesting. Yes, because in Transylvania we had a Saxon minority, so they brought a lot of German terms with them, like old German terms, and some of them have been taken into the language. Okay, good. So these are the rooms of the house. Now let's see, what do you have in each room? Can you throw at me some objects that you know from around the house?
Yeah, in the bathroom, in the bay, there is vana and cuveta. O vana do vane, o cuveta do cuvete.
Cuvetta.
Cuveta. Ah, yeah.
Cuvetta.
Do you know what this is? Cuvetta.
Yeah, it's
Sink.
the sink. Thanks.
Yep. And vana, that's a bathtub.
Oglinda plus oglinda.
This is straight from Slavic, oglinda.
Is the plural oglinde or oglindi?
Oglins.
Oglindi.
Moms.
Elena, how do you say oglinda in Russian?
Zerkala.
Oh, it's nothing like oglinda.
I think it's close to the Polish or it's Ukrainian oglinda and Czech as well.
Okay. Yeah, so Romanian got influenced by Slavic languages all around it. So sometimes we take something from the north, sometimes from the south, sometimes from the east. Okay, what else? This was a bathroom. What do we have in the living room?
Canapea. Or
Canapea. Două.
Canapele.
Un scaun. Două scauni.
Scauni sounds masculine.
Scaune.
Normally you don't have feminine plurals in E. There are some, but not so many, because usually they sound masculine.
Yeah. Un covor. Un covor, două covori. No, covoare.
Nice. You're learning. Tell me more.
Dulap.
Dulap.
Dulap. Două dulapuri. Dulapuri.
Plaza.
Un raft. Două rafturi.
Yes. Două rafturi.
Rafturi. O masa, două mese.
What's that?
Table.
Table. How about the bedroom?
Pot.
Pat. Două paturi.
Paturi. O perna, două perne. Pillow.
How do you say blanket?
Patura.
Yes. So not to be confused with pat. That's pătură. Două pături. Yes, so the only difference between paturi and pături is the here. And one means beds and the other one means blankets. So diacritics are very important in Romanian.
Un cearșaf. Linen, bed linen.
Da.
Două cerșafuri.
Cerceavuri.
Bed linen.
Cerșafuri.
Did I spell linen correctly, hopefully?
Is it like a sheet or like a
Yes, a bed sheet.
Bedsheet.
Okay, I'm going to start a new page now. So how would you ask someone, how many rooms does the house have? How many rooms?
Care cameră sunt în casă?
Care means which?
Cazzi.
Cât camere
Eh,
în casă?
Ai
Sì.
casa ta?
Yeah, but could means how much. How do you say how many?
Ita?
Cazzi.
Ite?
In masculine, yes. Câte?
Câte?
So
Câte
câte-
camere sunt în casă?
Mhm. Câte camere sunt în casă? Or, câte camere are casa? How many rooms does a house have? So câte is how many in feminine. What if you want to ask how many about something that's masculine?
Cazzi. Cât?
Mm-hmm. Câți? Yeah, how many in masculine? By the way, what happens if a noun is neuter and you want to ask how many of those are there? How many beds are in the apartment?
You use the feminine form.
Yes, why?
I don't know, it's just a rule.
Yes, and this rule has a reason, and the reason is that if you have a neuter noun, it acts like a masculine in singular and like a feminine in plural.
Plural.
When you ask how many, it's automatically more, it's plural, so then
Plural.
it's the feminine word. So this is câte, how many in feminine or in neuter. Okay, but what could be a masculine object? It's so hard to find a masculine object. Michele, can you think of a masculine object, or Yeva? Okay, let's take it like this. How many square meters does the house have?
Câți metri pătrați are casa?
Nice. Did you have to look for a place to live in Romania, Elena, when you came? It sounds like you have experience with this.
Am casa. Ai terminat cu casa. Știi?
Câți metri pătrați are casa? Yeah, so câte and câți are for countable things. Yeah, so all these are for countable. What if we want to ask about quantity? How would we ask how much?
Like how much space, for example?
Mhm.
Yeah, how much does it cost?
Cât costa?
So cât means how much in masculine. So when we ask how much something costs, we use the masculine one, not because there's something masculine about it, but it's just the standard, the default word. Cât costă? How much does it cost? Let's say something feminine. How much? Something uncountable feminine.
Fereastră.
How much window?
Au.
Yeah, you see, so it needs to be a substance, not an object. For example, coffee. How would you ask? How much
exactly.
coffee?
The café. The café.
Câtă cafea? Yeah, so câtă? How much in feminine.
Bravo.
And what if it's something neuter?
Then you use the masculine form because, as you explained, it acts like a masculine in singular.
The beauty of logics. Perfectly explained. Thank you, Michele. Neuter. Yeah. Neuter. Okay. Now let's say if somebody asks you how many rooms, câte camere are casa, and you don't want to give an exact number, you just want to say many. How would you say many?
Câteva or câteve.
That's a few.
Oh.
Michele. What did you say, Elena?
Mult.
Mult means much.
A lot, many.
Yeah.
Multe.
Multe. Multe. That's many in feminine or in neuter, according to the previous explanation. Câți metri pătrați are casa? A lot of square meters.
Multi.
Mulți. Yeah, so mulți is many in masculine. Multe, mulți. What is the opposite?
Puține, puțini.
Puțina, that's few. In feminine. Neuter. And puțini. Few in masculine. What else should we cover in the last half hour? Okay. Thinking of combining these. So how would you say, how many friends do they have?
Prieten.
It's prieten. And they have is. It sounds like it hurts. What do you say when it hurts? Ow.
Ow.
Yeah.
Ow.
This is how you remember this. Ow. It's prieten now. How would you say they have a few good friends? They have
Au.
Au.
Puțin.
Câteva.
Puțin.
Puțin prieten.
Da, au puțin prieten bun.
Prieten bun, da.
Yeah, and Michele, because you're thinking about câteva, câțiva, I'm going to add this one too. So we have câteva, that's a few, in a feminine or neuter. And câțiva, that's a few in masculine. And what is a word that means a few regardless of the gender? So you can use this anywhere. Starts with an N.
Nimic and nimeni.
Niște.
Yes.
Niște.
Thank you, Elena. Niște. Niște.
Some.
A few for all genders. Yes. Mm. Now, the only thing that is left for us to do is the plural. We've already done the plural a little bit because every time we talked about words, I showed you the plural form of those nouns. But we can still take a really quick look at the plurals. There are some rules that you can rely on, but unfortunately, they're not so many. So for example, what does a plural masculine always end in? All masculines for plurals end in the same letter. Do you know what it is?
Can you repeat the question?
What do the plural masculines end in always? It's enough if you come up with one masculine word, you put it in plural, and then you know that all the plurals end in the same letter.
I, isn't it?
E or I, the English I, the Romanian E. So you can remember this, all masculine nouns have plurals ending in E. But attention, that doesn't mean that all the plurals that end in E are masculine. Yeah, it's only the other way around. Can someone give me some examples of masculine nouns and put them in plural?
Oamen, oamenii.
What is the singular of woman?
Un oamen.
Om.
Un om. Ah, right. Un om.
Un om. Doi oameni. How about an I?
Oh, okay.
Un och. Doi. It's a trick question because this is one of the rare cases where the plural is exactly the same as the singular. Un och, doi och.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what other rule can we notice that is reliable? If a plural ends in ur, then it's always a what gender noun?
A neuter?
Always a neuter noun. Can you think of a neuter noun that has a plural in ur?
Un raft, două rafturi.
Raft, două rafturi. Or remember the word for painting?
Gândesc. Gândești.
Can you say that again, Elena?
Thinking gândești. Or
Painting.
painting. Culori.
The object. That's color. It starts with a T. Un tablou. Yeah, două.
Tablouri.
Very useful word. Ballpoint pen.
Un pix, două pixuri.
Un pix, două pixuri.
Pixuri.
a taxi, like in English.
Taxi.
Taxi, and then
Două taxiuri.
două taxi. And apart from this, I really cannot give you any completely reliable rules. So, for example, in feminines, feminine plurals can end in e, or le. And there is no clear reason why. So it's very often a guessing game. Neuters can also end in e and e. Yeah, so my advice for you, if you want to be comfortable with Romanian plurals, is every time you learn a new word, learn it with the plural form next to it. Because if you learn the rules here, it won't be much help because they overlap a lot. They tell you, oh, if this word ends in this letter, then the plural will be that, but it can also be that. And that can also be if it ends in another letter. So then why are you even giving me this rule? It's not helpful. Yeah, so just use the plurals whenever you learn the singulars. You use them together and you learn them like that. If you want, you can send me a message on Facebook or on email or wherever you can find me and ask me to send you a material about the plurals, and I will, okay? I won't put it here because this is a private video and I can only share this material in private. And that's about it, really. These were all the essential topics of this unit. Just before we end this, there is one more interesting thing. How do you put things in space? Yeah, but this topic we also had in, I think, the first unit, right? Michele, you were also in the first unit. Yes. So it's pretty much the same thing. So, for example, how do you say the pen is on the table?
Pix este pe masă. Pixul este pe masă.
Yeah, notice what I did there because it's the subject in the sentence, it needs a definite article. So I need to say the pen. So that's why I put ul. Ul means the. Okay, so pe is on. How do you say the dog is under the bed?
Câinul este pe pat.
Sub.
Not pe, under.
Ah, sub, sorry, sub.
Yes. Thank you, Elena. Elena, you already know a lot of things.
I want to talk to you later when you have a chance.
Of course, of course. It's wonderful to see that even though you didn't take a class, you already know so many things. Okay, so sub, under. And I'd really like to invite you to take the test next week. Yeah, because I think you would do well. And Ioana, you're also invited to take the test. And it doesn't matter whether you think you know or not, you cannot fail. It's just, it can be for fun and also to evaluate your level.
Yeah, sure. I also have a question here. I've seen de pe masa, for example, or pe de masa, I'm not sure which order. So why do we use de pe? Not just...
That means from. For example, eu iau cartea de pe masă. I take the book from the table. Yeah. So this is what it means in this case. like saying of on. Yeah, and somehow when you combine them, it means from. Romanian has a lot of funny examples like this. For example, you have de ce. Yeah, you know this, de ce? Why? But de means of and ce means what. So of what? Doesn't necessarily make sense. How would you say the door is near the window?
Porta sunt lângă, ușa sunt lângă.
But it's just one. Sunt is for more things.
Este
Lângă fereastră.
Da. Lângă fereastră. Ușa este lângă fereastră. How would you say she is in the room?
Ea este în cameră.
Ea este în cameră. Pretty simple. În equals in. Lângă equals next to or near. Not to be confused with lungă, which means long in feminine. Yeah? Often people confuse lângă and lungă because they're not used to the pronunciation of the diacritic. And finally, how to say between?
Mijloc.
That's the middle.
What was the question, sorry?
Between.
Între.
Între. How do you say, I don't know, the car is between the house and the street.
Mașina este între casa și stradă.
Yes, mașina este între casă și stradă.
I wanted to ask you something, Claudia. Is there a word for ușa like porta, or is porta just for a big gate?
Yes, so o poartă, două porți, that means a gate. Yeah, so it's a big thing. It's usually the main entrance. Ușa is just a regular door.
Yeah.
And finally, how do you say only one? Only one. So for example, how many tickets do you have? Câte bilete ai? Only one.
Doar un?
Doar unul?
Unul. How would you ask how many flowers do they have?
Câte floare?
What's the plural of floare?
Flori.
Florile.
Câte flori? Florile means the flowers. Yeah, flori, flowers, florile, the flowers. So câte flori do they have?
Au.
Yes. Just one. I would say just one.
Încă unul.
That's another one.
Doar unul.
Doar, but this time it's feminine.
Una.
Yes. Doar una. Okay, makes sense. So in case of neuter words, it's very funny because if you ask the question how many, you put it in plural and it's feminine. But if you say it's just one, if it's one, you put it in singular and the answer will be masculine.
No.
It's a combination. Okay, this is all. This is all from Unit 3. it was a pretty compact unit. It didn't have a very wide variety of subjects. The point is that you know how to talk about your living environment, like the mountains, the sea, the countryside, lake, river, and so on, to describe a house with the rooms and what's around the house, what is inside with the furniture and the objects, to be able to place them in space, to be able to describe how many there are and ask how many, to be able to say if there is only one, to know these, the way that these words change in plural, and the vocabulary is pretty wide. And, yes, the jobs. And this is all for Unit 3.
I have one single question. How do you call the water tap there where the water comes out in the cuveta?
Oh, this is funny because I think today is the inauguration of Biden, or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what his middle name is?
I forgot it.
It's Robinette, which is funny because Robinette in Romanian means water tap. Yeah. So un robinet, două robinete. That's a water tap. Yeah, that you have.
The same word is the same word like in Italian.
Okay. Do you have any other questions regarding to the content of today's class, or overall about Romanian classes?
Yeah, I'd like to ask regarding like a private classes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I also offer lots of private classes online. So of course we can talk in private and schedule a class. The first class is free, so it's a trial class just to see whether you like it and whether we can decide on some common learning objectives. And then, of course, it's everything with a contract and an invoice, and you get access to the learning community and to all the study materials, and it's pretty fun. And also you can join the group class if you want. That will begin again in February. So at the end of February, I think the 21st, we will have level 4. So it's what comes after this. But until then, please come to the test 1 week from now.
Mm-hmm.
This recording will be available online for everybody who wants to review what we just did. And the test will be mainly from what we did today, but it will also start from the assumption that you know the previous chapters too. Yeah, because they build upon each other. Of course, you notice that we used some words and some verbs that we're taking from a more basic level. So the purpose of the test is to check the knowledge from this unit, but also to make sure that you are building your knowledge and that you can use what you previously learned in the previous modules. Of course, the test is free for anyone who wants to take part. I cannot promise you when I will give you the results because next week I have 2 exams, but after next week, for sure, you will get your results. One thing that I would really like to ask you is to install Romanian diacritics on your keyboard, okay? Because you don't want to say face instead of girl and bed instead of river and so on. It's very easy to create confusion without them. So install Romanian diacritics and see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mulțumim mult.
Mulțumesc și eu și să aveți o seară frumoasă. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Toată lumea. Bye bye.
Bye. Nice.